Hello and welcome to episode 26 of the Make Things Better podcast. Today I'm joined by Emma-Louise Fusari. Really excited to have you on, Emma. Welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
Yeah, I'm really good, thanks. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. And it's been a big week for you. Do you want to tell us about something that's happened this week?
Yeah, so I have won an award. So I attended the TalkTalk Northwest Women in Tech Awards, and I won the Tech for Good category for the work I'm doing with in-house health. So I'll just sneak it into the video. Yeah, champion.
Absolutely.
I wanted to
Yeah.
say that to Gary Neville, championies.
I saw that you
So
had a photo with Gary Neville. Couldn't believe that. I was
I
like,
did.
wow, that's awesome. But I'm sure you were more excited about actually winning the award, I suppose. How did it feel to win it?
If I'm honest, I'm still shocked. There was an incredible um, list of nominees that were up for that award as well. So it's still, we'll talk about it, I'm sure, in a bit. But actually, winning a tech award is like it's still weird to get my head around. I see myself as a nurse, and so I suppose it was really good that it was the Tech for Good category, and that fits in nicely with what I do, my purpose, and kind of why I'm doing what I'm doing. So I'm sure we'll get used to it. And actually, every time my husband says something, I'm like, "Have you got one of these? Get along." So I'll be using it for a while, especially at home, for my own good.
Love that. Absolutely. Yeah, huge congratulations again.
Thank you
And
very.
yeah, you said there about your nursing. Do you want to start off by telling us about what you are doing at the moment and also how you ended up becoming, founding, is that the right word? Becoming
Yeah.
the founder, creating, building, I don't know, how you ended up building in-house health. Do you want to tell us
Yeah.
about that?
Yeah, all of the above, all of the above apply. Yeah, so I have been a nurse for 20 years this year, and predominantly my experience was in general practice, so working in GP surgeries, um, running chronic disease management clinics, doing public health promotion, public health screening. And so I left the NHS in 2016, mainly because I didn't feel like I was able to have any real impact on the outcomes for my patients. I was seeing people when they already had a diagnosis of a chronic condition, whether it was physical or mentally. Um, I was bounded by the red tape, the bureaucracy, the politics of the NHS, and I had all this skill and knowledge, but wasn't able to use it. I had kind of 10 minutes to see someone and educate and empower them, and that just wasn't happening. And that's kind of, I was like, that's not why I became a nurse in the first place. So I left, and I've done various number of things, and then I kind of miss my nursing, missing using that knowledge and skills. And I started doing some research on how I could get back into nursing, which didn't kind of involve me going back into the NHS, how I could work for myself in theory. And then I discovered this thing called workplace wellbeing. And believe it or not, most people would probably believe it, that I didn't even know it was a thing. I've always worked in the NHS. Well-being of others is a priority, but not well-being of the staff. So I was like, oh, what's this? And actually, what I found during my research is that what most companies do is actually similar to the NHS. It's reactive. It's not genuinely making a difference to the outcome of the patients. And that's kind of what started me on my journey to explore what I could do, what I could create using my own knowledge, experience, and thought leadership around that.
Yeah, and it sounds like what you're doing is often tackling the root cause rather than dealing with the symptomatic level. Why do you think like people are more depressed in tech than like the UK average? Because that seems to be quite a significant problem. I saw on your website, I think it said something like 5 times as many people working in tech are depressed than in the average like workplace.
Yeah, so I predominantly work with digital tech companies, and the reason I came to that is when I started on my wellbeing journey, I went into a digital marketing agency to kind of do a pilot study on my health checks and how I collect my data. And I'd done a bit. I went in and I was just like, oh my god, like they've got bean bags and like breakout rooms and a fridge and fruit and all. And I was like, oh my God, this is unbelievable. And then being a nurse and doing what I do, I went away and done a bit of research into the digital tech sector. And what I found was shocking, really. So there was a study, and it's quite an old study now, and it was quite a small study, but I think further research has shown that there are studies that support it. So if you work in tech, you're 5 times more likely to be depressed than the national average. 66% of the workforce are stressed. There's a high neurodiverse population. 28% have formally been diagnosed with a mental health condition caused by stress at work. So it's not all this glamorous lifestyle that the tech world portrays to the outsiders. I find the tech sector quite strange. It's a bit of a bubble. People are in this kind of bubble in the tech world and have no perception of reality in other sectors and what goes on in the real world. So for me, I thought actually, as a sector that's growing exponentially, no wonder it's kind of impacting on people's well-being. You know, the always-on culture, the fact that there's high workload, there is lots of deadlines involved with that. People have to have pay high attention to detail, but actually, because of the digital skills gap and the, you know, people are leaving this sector as well because of, you know, work-related stress and employee burnout. People are stretched thin. So it's no wonder that impacts on people mentally, either through stress, burnout, or actually increasing anxiety and depression within that cohort of people. So it is the long way around to answer your question, but it is it's not as glamorous as it seems, and I think it is a ticking time bomb that's going to start impacting businesses now as we see more external factors impacting. This study was in 2019, pre-COVID. It was a British Interactive Media Association study. So yeah, you know, we're still on the fallout from COVID. We've got the cost of living crisis coming to bite us all in the bum. So actually, things are only going to get worse for people. So now is, you know, more important than ever that we start properly, and I have to use that word properly, looking after people.
Yeah, and how do we do that then?
Well, we need to stop focusing on initiatives that are yoga and massage and cycle to work and free fruit, the typical well-being initiatives that spring to mind. We need to be realistic in how we engage people in their health and well-being. So for me, like, all those initiatives have a place, but they're never going to get to the root cause of the problem. The reactive, and actually therefore I have these two characters that I talk about all the time. So I have Skinny Susan. So Skinny Susan's already healthy. She is already goes to the gym, already does yoga, but now her employer has given her all these really good benefits. But Fat Bob, the developer, you know, he's not going to put a leotard on and start doing yoga, but he's the guy that's going to have a heart attack, a stroke, a mental health breakdown. So how do we engage Fat Bob in his health and well-being? And I'm not fattest, and I'm, you know, it's just people know who I'm talking about. When I use those characters, people know exactly who I'm talking about in their workplace. So it's about engaging unhealthy people in well-being, and it is about being more strategic about what businesses are doing, and it's about taking health and well-being seriously, because not only is it good for the people, it is actually good for business. It will improve your retention rates, it will improve your bottom line profits, especially when you're having to innovate and grow in the digital tech sector, because you always have to be ahead of the curve, you always have to be switched on to continue in the development in what you're doing for your own business, but also for your clients as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I like that example with Fat Bob and Skinny Susan. It made me think though, within like the tech sector, and I think most companies, at least from my limited view of them, is that there'll be kind of like one sort of set blanket approach maybe to mental health and well-being. But then if you do have different people, so you've got a Skinny Susan where certain needs already being met for her, but then a Fat Bob, they're not being met and they need to have maybe extra support in some way. Is there sort of a space there to kind of make more tailored approaches to employer well-being? Is that something that you look at as well?
Yeah, so I think it is a perfect example of how we have to be more inclusive in what we're offering people, especially when we talk about diversity of the workforce. You know, we talk about going for alcohol after work. That's not going to suit everyone in the business, whether it's for religious reasons or because people are parents or whatever it is. You know, alcohol is my biggest bugbear in the tech sector because it is an accelerant for anxiety and depression and poor productivity. So why are you supplying your people with that so-called benefit, because it's not good for your business? There are other things we can do, but for me, kind of, so what I've developed, and this isn't to be salesy, it's just telling you kind of how I've thought about it and how I'm trying to provide a solution on getting to the root cause. It's data-driven well-being, and it's not about surveying your people every twice a year and finding out what they think, because actually people, you don't know what you don't know, and people don't often relate to having a specific problem. So we'll go back to alcohol. So for me, I see someone in the health check and I say, all right, Bob, do you drink much alcohol? Oh, no, not really. Okay, so when do you drink? Oh, I drink when I watch the football. So how often do you watch football? Twice a week, right? So what do you drink? Oh, I have 3 or 4 pints, right? Okay, what do you do at the weekend? Or go out with the missus, right? Okay, what do you drink then? Or we have a bottle of wine and then have a few pints. And before you know it, Bob, who doesn't have a problem with alcohol, is drinking 3 times the recommended allowance, and you just don't get that from a survey. So kind of the Meta program. So thanks to Zuckerberg for ruining the name that I chose, but Meta stands for the 4-step process in which we do in this 12-month program, which is measure, evaluate, transform and analyze. So we start by measuring employee health data. So each employee is invited to have the opportunity to spend 45 minutes with a nurse, which is me at the minute, and we look at all areas of health and well-being, so physical health, mental health, financial well-being, lifestyle, and workplace culture. And it's an opportunity for them to share confidentially kind of any issues they might have, but also to discuss things, and for me to identify areas in which they probably haven't thought about, give them their own advice and recommendations, because let's be honest, it's each individual's responsibility to look after themselves. It shouldn't all just be on the employer. But then we take that data, we anonymize it, and we show the kind of leadership team where the problems are in the organization across the workforce. So our report might say 20% of your workforce have high blood pressure, 40% have got severe anxiety, 10% have got increased alcohol dependence, 20% have got issues with don't have enough savings, and your culture's toxic. But then the point is, and how do we engage these people, is that all the education and training we provide is based on the key problem areas for that organization. So it's bespoke to the needs of the people. And talking about digital tech and marketing, the health checks, that's marketing to the employees. That's me saying to Bob, listen, Bob, if you don't sort your shit out, in 5 years' time, you're going to have a heart attack. The next time the workplace do an initiative, Bob's then like, Emma said this, so actually that workshop is for me. So Bob's more likely to participate in those initiatives because the switch has been flicked and he's like, all right, that's relevant now. Whereas before he was like, nah, that's not for me. So it's kind of, the health checks are the kind of marketing piece to the employees. It's part of the value proposition to the employees about engaging them in the offering that I'm providing, but also the workplace is providing. So we get better engagement, we get improved outcomes, not just for the people, but actually for the business as well.
Yeah, it sounds like it's quite specific, really, isn't it? Like it's quite tailored towards people. And I think, with like surveys, it must be quite hard for employees to be truly sort of vulnerable. Like you were giving that example there about Bob, but realistically, it's going to be very hard to admit that maybe you are drinking so much, or even be aware of it. Sometimes it's hard to just simply be aware of your own like habits and actions if you're so used to it. Whereas if you're sitting down with a nurse for 45 minutes and having a proper sort of consultation, you're going to be in a much better place to fully identify any issues and problems. And so once you do get to that root cause, you can really start to put in measures to improve things. And have you found that there's any like common sort of problems that organizations, especially in tech, are struggling with? And is there any sort of easy, quick wins that companies can put in place that tends to help? Or is it always quite specific and has to be tailored to each different organization?
Um, so I'm just at, I'm still a startup myself, and I'm on early adopter phase of the tech and the programming kind of what I've developed. I think, like I said, the kind of alcohol seems to be a huge cultural problem across the UK in general, but we are seeing an increase in anxiety in people. But if I'm really honest, the problems that I see come from the fact that leadership teams, business owners don't recognize that part of the problem is them. Is that most of the, we've got, I see at the minute a lot of people, especially younger people, haven't developed resilience. And that's something that I think needs teaching. I think it's something around good health and well-being that is missing from the conversation. And we have external factors that impact on people's health and well-being. But fundamentally, if I come into an organization, no matter what I do, if at an operational level people have too much workload, if leadership haven't been provided with the right training, if people aren't given the autonomy to do the work that they have been asked to do, if there's poor relationships in the workplace, if there's too much change and there is ineffective communication, people are not going to have good health and well-being. And that buck has to stop with the organization. And that's part of my job, because I've also developed the meta wellbeing audit, and that looks at the operational frameworks around wellbeing. But actually, if business leaders don't want to listen to that, then I'm not the right person to work with them, because I will be telling them. But I think across the board, well-being now has to be seen as a strategic arm of the business. Well-being has to be measured in line with all other areas of the business. And actually, that's my kind of aim, is to be able to correlate improved well-being with improved KPIs, with improved OKRs, whatever buzzword you want to throw at it. That is my fundamental aim, to improve people's well-being, to improve business outcomes, and be able to give them the demonstrable evidence that what they're investing in, that what they are doing with their people is good for them and is good for business, and they have the data to back that up. But it needs to
Yeah.
be taken seriously, and not the fluffy shit that people keep doing, because they've always done it and it's not making a difference.
Yeah, it makes sense. And I absolutely love how passionate you are about this because it's so important. I think so many people nowadays are like struggling with their well-being as a whole, and especially in the tech industry, as we've talked about. And yeah, I think really employers, they need to figure out what's going on. And I was just thinking there about like our company at Hive IT. And if I'm honest, like we do a lot of tech for good projects, but some of them are more tech for good than others, I'd say. I don't think we do any work that's bad, that's for sure. What I was thinking about is that like one of the best things about working at Hive is that I think overall our employee well-being and like how we look after each other is quite an important thing to us. So it's like it's not only about like the work that the company does, it's not only about the results that they get, but also like at the end of the day, is that company and the people within that company, are they happy? Because if they're not happy, then it's almost like, well, you can be making other people as happy and improving the world as much as you like, but if the people within the organization themselves aren't happy, it's not going to be sustainable, and you're not going to be able to continue to do the good work that you're doing. So yeah, I think it's all so interconnected, isn't it? Anyway, we should probably start to wrap this up. So I've got two final questions for you. And the
Yeah.
first one is, what are your sort of goals and aims then for in-house health? It sounds like you're really busy and you're doing amazing getting this award this week as well. But I'm just intrigued to know like what your vision is for the future now as well.
So I suppose part of the byproduct of working with a sector means that the more people I work with, obviously the more people I get to help. But the more data I have, and it's about using that data for good. So obviously it's not shared with anyone else, but it means that then I can start almost creating like the digital tech sector 5-year, 10-year plan. This is the state of the health in the workplace. This is how we can better look after people. This is how we can improve our attraction of people into the sector and keep them. Once we get them, how do we keep people? So that's kind of the wider view on the data. But I think short term, I need more people on my program using the tech, making it better, impacting more people, making workplaces healthier and happier for people to want to be there and to thrive, so people can reach their full potential. But like I said earlier, so that businesses can continue to innovate and grow and sustain themselves as well. You know, it's not just challenging for people, it's challenging for businesses at the minute. So yeah, I just want to help more people, because there is a way that you can do it properly and be successful. So yeah.
Yeah, brilliant stuff. Final question then. What can people do to make things better? And you can interpret this however you like.
Okay, so keeping on the theme of workplace well-being then. So making it better. So if you are listening and you are a leader of a business, an owner of a business, it's really important that you are role modeling the behaviors that you want your teams to take on board, how you want them to be. Active listening is really, really important. And trying to understand what's going on with your people. And if you are in an organization and you are not happy and your boss isn't listening, then tell them. If you are fearful of telling them and think things won't happen, then probably it's not best for your own well-being to stay there. But if you don't tell people, and how can they fix it? So basically it's about effective communication and everyone listening to each other. And you just said earlier about what tools can people use. So I actually have an unshameful plug. I have a wellbeing action plan. So you might already be using these in your business. If you're not, it's a free download. I'll give Tom the link and he can put it up. So wellbeing action plans are for employees to fill in so that they can look at what is bad for their health and wellbeing at work, how they can communicate that. And then as a manager, as a leader, as a business owner, you can use that tool in your one-to-one reviews, and it helps you embed wellbeing conversations into the workplace. It's a free download, and it comes with a manager's guide as well, how to embed that, and some emails that give you top tips on how to make reasonable adjustments if needed, what's your legal obligations and the like. So I'm not a spammy person, so please do sign up, and you can unsubscribe at any time.
Brilliant stuff. Yeah, thanks so much, Emma. I'll have all of that stuff in the description, so go check it out. All right, thank you so much for coming on the show once again. I'll also be adding links to Emma's social media, so go and follow Emma. Congratulations again for your award this week. I'm so happy that you won that. Thank you for watching or listening, and I hope you have an amazing rest of your day.